So, Life is Strange 2 has received a new trailer, an official gameplay video, and a plethora of new details regarding the story and the new characters. It brings to light things we picked up on in previous trailers and connections we made in Captain Spirit, and it still leaves some questions unanswered. So, I've looked at everything we've learned, and today I want to give you a rundown of what the all-important story is going to be about in Life is Strange 2. Starting off with our new main protagonists, Life is Strange 2 will be focusing around two new characters, Sean, who is 16, and Daniel, who is 9. At the start of the game, both of them live in Seattle with their father, Esteban Diaz. On the PlayStation blog's announcement, Sean is described as a typical teenager, surviving the intricacies of high school relationships while trying to fit in and be cool. Both the gameplay and a Eurogamer article about Season 2 tell us that Sean is a talented 16-year-old with his drawings and sketches. He hates parties, has a crush on a girl named Jen, doesn't really know how to talk to her, has a best friend named Layla who tries to help out with that, and likes chilling in his room listening to the streets. On the other hand, his brother Daniel loves Halloween, zombies, and chocolate bars. He's also described as playful and full of imagination, much like Chris from Captain Spirit. The main thing to really take away about these two from all this information is that they're normal, everyday kids. They have parties to attend, ironically, holidays to look forward to, and friends to hang out with. Much like Max Caulfield in Season 1, Sean and Daniel are like any other kids their age, with no horrible tragic events on the horizon to change that. Until now. What this gameplay video, along with another article in the actual trailer, also do is give us more context regarding this tragic accident we kind of see occur in the first teaser. We see Daniel has accidentally spilled some fake blood he was making earlier on the neighbor, whose name is Brett. Sean steps in when Brett starts grabbing Daniel, which also leads to some of the blood transferring to his shirt. Some words are thrown around, a shitty comment about Sean's mother is made, and a fight breaks out. The fight that leads to Brett being knocked on the ground and banging his head against a rock, leading to Officer Matthew pulling up to the scene and drawing his gun when he sees Brett on the ground all covered in blood. Sean's father Esteban comes out and tries to calm the situation down and ends up being shot, leading to Daniel screaming and using his powers of telekinesis to push the officer away. Also, it's been confirmed on the Eurogamer article that it is in fact Daniel who has the supernatural power of telekinesis. I know I'm glossing over a ton of things here. There's been a bit of a mixed reaction to this scene specifically that I wanted to address, so I'll come back to this topic in a separate video. Afterwards, we see Sean waking up, realizing what kind of trouble he's in, and tries to wake up Daniel. Failing that, he then carries Daniel away instead, grabs his backpack, and leaves just in time to avoid the police, ending the video. So we now know a little bit more behind this event, and it confirms what we theorized in a previous video, that it was a family member that had been shot, that Sean and Daniel had some role to play in all of this, and that they're now wanted by the police. More importantly, this video also confirms that this event is going to be the catalyst to the main story in Season 2, and brings us to this shot in the trailer of Sean and Daniel walking along the road. Fearing separation and incarceration because of this event, both brothers are now on a journey across America, traveling to their family's hometown of Puerto Lobos, Mexico, which, by the way, is a real small town on the coast of Sonora, Mexico, not a fictional one, complete with its own lighthouse, funnily enough. This would also confirm the traveling aspect we picked up on in the first teaser, with Sean literally having to travel with nothing except his backpack. In fact, his backpack in this shot looks very similar to the one we see in the original teaser, just a little more intact. We can also see another shot of his backpack with some patches on it, which, as we've theorized before, might be important. The whole idea of putting patches on backpacks might have a connection to the theme of nostalgia in Season 1. Max would use her camera to take pictures of things in the world, both as a collectible and to capture a moment in time. In Season 2, it looks like we'll be able to collect reminders of the areas we visit, patches that capture a place rather than a moment, putting them on our backpack backpack and taking them with us wherever we go. This traveling to and from multiple places throughout the story is, of course, a big change from Season 1. No longer do we have one central location to call home, such as Arcadia Bay. Instead, we'll be passing through numerous new towns and states as we make our way down to Mexico. With Season 2 having much higher production values than the first game, I suspect one thing Donut are trying to accomplish here is reducing the amount of reused locations throughout the episodes, a criticism I saw more than once as Season 1 was releasing. The last thing I'll mention on travel is distance over time. Seattle is very far away from Puerto Lobos, Mexico. There's about 1,500 miles in distance between them, and on foot it would take about 514 hours or 21 days to travel that distance, assuming you were constantly walking for every single hour of those 21 days. Then, if we take into consideration that it takes Sean and Daniel about a month to reach Beaver Creek, Oregon, which is way less than half of the distance they need to travel to reach Mexico, then you can quickly piece together another big change from Season 1, that episodes might not take place over a number of days sequentially. Instead, there might be gaps of time of either a few days or a few weeks, or even a few months between episodes. This is assuming that the last episode will in fact have Sean and Daniel reach their destination in Mexico. It's not exactly confirmed that will happen, but I'm assuming it will be. And if that's the case, it really puts into perspective the scope of time Season 2 will take place over. Not only would we be traveling across multiple different states, but multiple different seasons as well. Rather than witness a relationship develop over the course of 5 days, like with Max and Chloe, we could be seeing how Sean and Daniel's relationship would develop over the course of a few months to a year. I'll just reaffirm now that this is just my theory on how time will work in Season 2. I don't think it's been exactly confirmed, but when you take a look at the big picture, it's hard to see it happening any other way. Now, let's get to the main themes, the stuff I'm really excited about in Season 2, brotherhood and coming of age. In the official blog post, it's mentioned that life on the road is tough and dangerous. The brothers will face all manner of challenges as they bravely undertake a journey that will test the bonds of brotherhood. A little later, it mentions the game will this time focus on brotherhood alongside the need to guide and educate your younger brother whilst simultaneously coming of age yourself. And I think this is where Season 2 has the most potential to be amazing. It once again focuses on that volatile part of teen life where your decisions and actions can transform you into the person you become as an adult, but now there's an extra responsibility with our new protagonist Sean, trying to teach Daniel the rights and wrongs of life while at the same time trying to figure them out himself. Michel Ko, one of the co-game directors on Season 2, mentions in an interview at Gamescom that another one of the main themes of the game is education. As Sean and Daniel go on their journey, they can come across situations where they might need to do something like steal food to survive, and whatever we choose to do as Sean, Daniel will pick up on.
One of the main themes of the game is the education. And basically when you're on your road living as outcasts, it's even more complicated because you might have to do things that you wouldn't do in real life, like you might need to steal or to be criminals to survive. And what you do will affect Daniel because he's always with you, he's looking at what you're doing as a big brother, and he will take example on what kind of things you are teaching to him.
I think this dynamic between Sean and Daniel is how Life is Strange 2 will bring a lot of complexity to our choices and to the brothers' relationship. Everything we do in the world as Sean, from big decisions to just how we explore the environment and interact with objects, will affect what Daniel learns from us. And as we go through the game, we'll start to see our decisions reflect in Daniel's actions. And remember, Daniel is the one with pretty powerful supernatural powers that, between this event and his interactions with Chris and Captain Spirit, he seems to have taken a little more control over. How he decides to use those powers by his own will with the lessons he learns from Sean will be up to us to manage carefully. The Eurogamer article goes into a lot more depth about this if you want to learn more, but the main takeaway here is that Sean, aside from trying to be a role model for Daniel, has a huge responsibility on his shoulders now. He and his brother are outcasts from society. They can't access the usual utilities and support we can for fear of being caught by the police. They have this enormous journey to Mexico that they're now undertaking with probably little to no money to support themselves, while at the same time for Sean having to fully care of his little brother, feeding him, watching over him, and finding shelter at night. On top of that, Sean's dialogue in the trailer, I don't think Daniel understands what's going on, and I can't tell him the truth now, I think implied that Daniel, because he was unconscious after the event, doesn't really know the full gravity of the situation, that his father had been killed and that they can't return home at all. How Sean is going to break that news to him, if he ever does, will be interesting and heartbreaking to see, and will probably make this journey and these lessons he needs to teach about the world a lot more difficult. It's an enormous weight to put on top of a 16-year-old, and going by something else Sean says in the trailer, he doesn't know himself how he's going to take care of himself and Daniel on this journey, which is probably where, as players, we come in. And considering all of this, I have a feeling that our choices are not going to be any easier in this game than they were in the first. So that's really most of the main exciting story stuff with Life is Strange 2. Right now I'll just mention a few other important things. Jonathan Morali, the composer behind the original Life is Strange, will be returning to score Season 2, which personally I am very excited about. You can hear a small piece of the new soundtrack in the trailer called Into the Woods, and it does sound a little different than the dreamy acoustic guitar we're used to. It's still really nice and I pretty much already love it, but there is something about it that I can't really put into words that sets itself apart from the first season's soundtrack. In fact, even the licensed music we can hear in the gameplay video, Lysomania by Phoenix, is a lot more upbeat and energetic than I think I was expecting for Life is Strange. But as always, after listening to a newly discovered song from this series 4 million times over in the last week, I've grown to like it a lot. So, can't wait for more licensed tracks and more music from Jonathan Morali to use in my videos. Choices of course are back, and major choice sequences now have this new design which takes up most of the screen compared to Season 1. There's really not a big change here. Most of the differences in choices are really going to come from the story and the brothers' relationship rather than a new design, but I'm happy we can still take as long as we like to make these decisions, and I'm curious to see how they'll handle 3 different choices in this style. Of course, another big change from Season 1 is the supernatural powers. Sean, who we control, isn't the one with powers, and instead it's his younger brother Daniel. In terms of how this will work in gameplay, it'll probably work the same way it did in Captain Spirit. Rather than interact with something normally as Sean, you'd probably hold down L2 or left trigger to have Daniel interact with it instead, and everything should be fine. But what if at a point in the story, Daniel doesn't want to listen to Sean? What if some tension is introduced between them on their journey? Would we lose access to those powers entirely? What if Daniel gets super angry with Sean about something he does or a choice that we make and decides to use his powers in a not so brotherly way? It's really interesting to think about, and I think this aspect of the supernatural abilities in Season 2 will bring a lot more complexity to an already complicated situation. The pause screen has also received a change. Rather than Max's diary or Chloe's letters to Max, Life is Strange 2 will feature Sean's sketches of the world. He is an artist, and apart from the short sketch he does of Layla in his room, we can also see some drawings on his door and a little scribble animation to indicate when the game has saved. Of course, being 16, we'll have a mobile phone again that we can use to receive text messages on, which I'm curious to see how we'll actually use once we're on this road trip and on the run from police. Would we keep in touch with Layla? Would we turn it off for fear of being tracked or traced? Would we be able to take phone calls instead of just text messaging and make dialogue choices the same way we would during gameplay in Captain Spirit? Can we play Hot Dog Man on it again? A lot of possibility, but we don't really know too much. Spirit animals will also make a return. It's been described by Michelle that a wolf will sort of replace the butterfly we see throughout Season 1, both as an indicator of our important actions and through some symbolism in the game, such as Sean's clothing, or in this shot in the trailer with both brothers howling at the moon. Not much really known on this, and I was never really good at dissecting the spirit animal stuff, but it's something to look into further once we actually play Season 2. race and the current political climate in 2016, which is when the game takes place, also appears to be an important factor in the story. We covered an aspect of this in the teaser analysis with the riots and protests happening because of the shooting, and it seems Donod want to explore this issue a little further. And I'll talk a little bit more about this once we actually play Season 2 as well. And finally, with the demo itself. We've heard multiple times that it has been shortened, and I think that's pretty obvious when you look at it and see just how much stuff we could have interacted with, but didn't. I've seen a few pictures online of at least 2 interactions that didn't get shown, one from the official screenshots depicting Sean and Layla sitting down outside and having a conversation. It looks like this was bypassed entirely, and another showing a conversation in the kitchen between Sean, Daniel, and their father. So there's a lot that could potentially happen in this chapter, with characters being in all kinds of situations and a ton of backstory we can probably dig up. Would make the whole leaving it all behind all the more sadder as well. And that's pretty much almost everything we know about the story and some other stuff about Life is Strange 2. In terms of my personal thoughts on all of this, of course I'm very excited for it, and there's a lot here that I really do like with the new characters and this new narrative. However, there is no denying though that a lot has changed from Season 1. The protagonist, the way the story is structured, the multiple locations through traveling, the powers, the beholder of those powers, the music. Donod are definitely attempting to try something new with this sequel, and I can understand some of the backlash they've received for doing this. People asking where's Max and Chloe, or they don't like the new main protagonists, or they're not really as excited for the game as they were for the first one. And I think that's fine. It's okay to be skeptical with all this newness. But I also think we should trust Donod to know what they're doing here. They know where the strengths of Life is Strange lie, with relatable characters dealing with real-life issues. It's those same qualities that allowed us to fall in love with Max and Chloe in Season 1, and I think it's worth giving them a shot with this sequel and these new characters. And if it's good, then great. And if it's not, then you'll definitely hear about it from me. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Sorry this video took so long. Moving forward, I'll have another video on Captain Spirit, looking at all the great detail we can find in the environment that gives us an insight into the story. After that, I should have another latest in Life is Strange video talking about the comics and some other related news, and then after that, it's September, and we'll be closer than ever to finally playing Life is Strange 2. And I can't wait. Let me know what your thoughts are on Season 2. Are you excited for it? Do you like the direction Donod are taking? Let me know in the comments. Thanks again for watching, have a good day, and I'll see you soon.